All right, Doc, take it from there.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone from Ghana. My name is Papa Benin.
No, Doc, hold on. Doc, I have to introduce you. So I'm sure, James, once you have two doctors, just confirm which you're referring to. So no, before you.
Yes, I was referring to Dr. Rivison actually.
Yeah. Okay. Doc has a lot of information to share with us today, so you want to speak immediately.
It's already fired up.
All right. Dear, I know, I see the film, and I'm happy about it, to be honest. Just check your WhatsApp here. All right. And I'm happy to see quite a number of young professionals and students joining. I know some names personally. Happy to see everybody here. So a very wonderful afternoon to you all, students, young professionals, and even professionals. And I'm happy to welcome all of you to this month's technical session of SPE Ghana Session. And today we are privileged to have my own friend and a brother, Dr. Papa Benin, to take us through localization process of FPSO platforms in Africa. So let me just put some conditions here that would help us to all have a safe, I would say, flight today. Wherever you join from, please make sure that you are muted throughout the whole session so you don't disturb the speaker. Since it's an online, I would say, online lecture, we don't want to have any distractions from anybody. So please take note of that. I will just steal 2 minutes of your time to read the bio of our guest speaker today, so that for those who don't know him, we'll get to know who we have here today. So kindly allow me to read the bio, and even if possible, read a bit of the abstract just to form the framework of today's discussion. So Dr. Papa Benin is a senior management executive with 15 years plus experience of project development and implementation of crude oil refinery with over 8 years of FPSO operations and engineering management practice. Dr. Benin's possesses BSc and MSc Mechanical Energy Engineering degree from Sweden and a PhD from the United States of America in applied management and decision science with focus on engineering management. Since 2013, Dr. Papa Benin has been working for MODEC Ghana. He was the warranty manager for Jubilee FPSO and further managed ready for first oil for the 10 FPSO. Currently, he is a localization manager for MODEC Ghana and responsible for local content strategy execution, government liaison, and managing localization of FPSOs operations across all locations and departments. In addition, he is currently a part-time lecturer at the Regional Maritime University, lecturing project management, research design, and technical report writing. He has previously worked with ABB in Sweden for 2 years and with Tema Oil Refinery for 7 years. Lastly, Dr. Papa Benin is a certified and experienced HAZOP, that is Hazard and Operability Leader for student studies in oil and gas processing unit, and has expertise in demonstrable track record in localization management of FPSO operations in Ghana, and he's currently supporting MODEC Senegal and MODEC Ivory Coast with their localization and local content program. What an honor to have a speaker here today to take us through the topic, localization process of FPSO platforms in Africa. So without much ado, let me invite Dr. Papa Benin to give us the lecture. Thank you so much.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone from Ghana once again. So basically, I am going to talk about the localization process of FPSO platforms in Africa. I'm going to touch on the principle of intergenerational equity and justice. You know, the oil that we have over here has been in existence for over 1 million years. So our generation cannot just go and then just exploit the oil without thinking about the future or the younger ones coming. So we have to make sure that the oil that we will do and then the money that we will get from the oil is invested for the younger generation to come to enjoy as well. I'm going to talk about the local content main pillars. I'm going to talk about skill development of locals for FPS operations and maintenance, the process that we use to pick up fresh graduates, groom them, and then let them go on board the FPSOs to localize expatriate roles. I'm going to talk about the development of nationals for FPSO projects across Africa. I will touch on the strategies that we deploy to meet and exceed local contents requirements for FPSO projects in Africa. Then I'm going to talk about MODEX localization progress to date. I will touch on the capacity program that we have in place in readiness for future FPSO projects. We don't have to sit down and then wait till FPSO contracts are won before we bring people to occupy the room. We have to plan ahead and visit what the challenges and then deal with it. I'm going to talk about the FPSO localization chart where we pick first graduates, use them as backfill, and then push them from the bottom throughout the organization to ensure that in number 15 to 20 years time, we'll have FPSOs fully nationalized. Then I'll take you through the localization flow chart process, and I will touch on monitoring and evaluation of localization as well. We are trying to move away from paperwork. As such, I have developed a system whereby we have automated localization management process where we sit back behind the scenes and monitor how locals are properly groomed to occupy expatriate roles. And I'll talk about procurement, supply chain initiative. Then I'll talk about the areas that we have targeted for foreign companies to form JVs with local firms so that it can transfer knowledge to them for them to really. So basically, that's the areas that I will touch on. Then on the last that I will try to talk about the transformation on the local content transformation that averages on the strength of multiple parties to ensure that we deliver accordingly. So the principle of international intergeneration equity, as I said, it talks about the fairness among generations for an exploited national resource in the country, with the notion that the applicable resource that has been in existence for millions of years is not, totally consumed by the present generation. It will not be fair if the oil that we have over there, right, the current generation just exploit it and then maybe just spend the money without thinking about the future ones. Jubilee FPSO, for instance, it has been in operation or it has been in existence for over 100 years. And it might take up to 30 years for us to exploit all the oil from over there. And as I said, it will not be fair if during our generation, we just take out all the oil without making an investment into the younger ones, into our unborn children, and then the younger ones coming up. So that's why Ghana, for instance, Ghana has what we call the heritage funds, where they reserve some of the money for the younger ones who are yet to be born. So at least when they come up and then they grow up like us, they would at least give us a good name that during our existence, when we produce the oil, we save some of the money for them to use, and then we make sure we build schools and the roads and the roads for them to come and then enjoy by making their life better. So what I'm saying is that for IOCs means international oil companies. For international oil companies to be very sustainable, right? There's the need for them to embrace the principle of intergenerational equity and then justice. For IOCs to be sustainable, there's the need for them to embrace local content. With that local content, then they are heading towards a failure zone. What I'm also saying is that by embracing local content, right, we will ensure that the oil and gas resources being exploited by IOCs and being taking place within a specified frame are being enhanced in such a way that we are able to develop the skill sets of indigenous, right, based on the principle of intergenerational equity and then justice. So once we embrace local content, we are adhering to the principle of intergenerational equity and then justice, where we just don't spend the resources, within a specific time frame. By also doing that, we encourage the foreign vendors, right? That IACs and the model, for instance, has over 500 vendors. We ensure that they form partnership with indigenous companies for the purposes of transferring knowledge to them, so that within a specific time frame, let's say about 5 years or so, those local companies can be equally as good as the foreign firms. Then IOC themselves, like the operators of the FPSOs like MUDEC, we formed a JV with local companies. Our local partner is GenMec. We ensure that we are transferring all the knowledge to GenMec so that within a specific period of time, let's say about 10 to 15 years or so, GenMec can pride itself as the first Ghanaian FPSO operator. And on the last point, right, by demonstrating commitment to local content laws, IOC, that is the international oil companies will build a reputation of sticking to the principle of international intergeneration equity and then justice, so that at least every country that brings in an IOC will be sure that they're coming there to do a very good work. For example, MUDEC, won an FPSO in Senegal. And one of the main reasons why the FPSO was awarded to us was simply because MUDEC came to Ghana and then we adhered to the principle of intergenerational equity and justice by ensuring that Ghanaians are properly groomed to occupy portrait roles. So local content main pillars, I'm sure that this is of no news to you, right? The essence of local content is to increase local participation. As you know, local content laws promote an increase in indigenous participation in the oil and gas sector. Then the essence of local content is to maximize the value addition and job creation through the use of local expertise, goods and services, businesses and financing the petroleum industry value chain, so that at least most of the money that is generated from the oil stays in country for it to trickle down to those, providing services, selling tomatoes, selling cabbage, selling lettuce and the rest. Then on the 10th point, one of the main pillars of local content is to promote the development of local capacities and the petroleum industry value chain through education, that the skills transfer that we allow the expatriate to transfer to the Ghanaians, and then to ensure that every foreign company in Ghana appropriately transfers technology and the knowledge to the local partner that they are dealing with. Then on the 4th point, we have to ensure that the minimum local content level as well as the supply chain level is met once an IOC is operating in Ghana. Then we also have to ensure that local content laws, right, assist in increasing the capability and the international competitiveness of domestic businesses, and then also to achieve and attain a degree of control of local companies over the development initiative for local stakeholders. It's an equal playing platform where we ensure that we groom local companies for them to be equally good as the foreign companies, and also to go out there over to Africa or any other countries in Europe or so to go and perform as well. And for example, some of the vendors that MUDEC groomed from day one, they are now doing this in Senegal because we took our time to really groom them for them to be not top-notch firms. So they are not only operating in Ghana, they have moved to Senegal to go and then work there. On the last point, I would want to emphasize that local content realization in FPSO projects doesn't come cheap. It's a very, very, very strategic and then a very difficult thing, and it requires patience. It requires a great deal of planning, coordination, resource, and then perseverance to obtain the desired local content level, which, and then it's not really a short-term term, it has to be a very long-term term that you have to plan ahead, strategize, and then just move ahead with this. For example, it's not very easy or it's very difficult. One of the most difficult things I have seen is to ask somebody to train somebody to take his job so that he will just go home without any job. And that person has a family and so to feed. So it has to be very strategic. Right. So local content doesn't really come cheap. It requires careful planning. On how we develop nationals for FPSO operations and maintenance, right? What we have done is, when an FPSO is coming to a country, we go ahead to select fresh graduates who have finished their national service, of course, and then quite often we don't involve ourselves in the process. We engage a third party for them to go all over the country to select candidates, right? And the candidates will take aptitude test, psychometric test, and then of course those brilliant ones that are able to pass through the test are shortlisted and then interviewed. And then of course, when we need about 20 or so, they would bring us about 30 or 50. Then we will screen them further to the number that we want. Then these people go to the FPSO as backfill to localize expatriate roles. So the selection process is very fair. When it comes to our FPSOs, we have so many Ghanaians from all parts of the world, working on FPS because they were given a fair opportunity to partake in the selection process. And recently, MODEC has introduced a software by name Canopy in the selection processes of people coming to work for us. With that software, with Canopy, you just don't go, you are not going to meet any human being or any human interface to the last process. What we do is, you just apply, then it will ask you a list of questions, you're able to answer. Once you're able to answer, you go to the next level, you take an exam, you go to the next level. There are some assignment that they will give to you, you answer, the system will just analyze it, and then it will screen everybody down to the last bit where we have a face-to-face interface or face-to-face interview. Have the face-to-face interface now, of course, go ahead and then confirm the coordinates. As employees of MODEC, where we pass them through a strategic training program. And as I said, the process is very fair. Anybody at all can just apply. It doesn't matter whether your father is a minister or your father is a farmer, just apply. Once you are able to pass through the process. So what we do is, once this, candidates are selected, we pass them through a structured 24 months training program. Right. First, we send them to JTC, that the Jubilee Technical Training Center, where they undertake MVQ level 2 training program. It doesn't matter whether you have a degree or you have a PhD or you have HND. Everyone goes through the technical training skills, because once you are going to the FPSO to go and then work, you are going to work as a technician, hands-on. So we have people with masters from the US, people with masters from Europe, people with masters from Sweden coming over to apply, and then of course to pass through the system for them to be trained to go offshore to go and then work. As I said, the minimum criteria that we often give people to apply is HND. So you can have a PhD, you can have an HND. If you want to work offshore, you have to go through the process. And once that is done, we send them to the UK for MVQ level 3 training program for 6 months. Then we have the choice of sending them to Brazil for them to go to, or for them to go and undertake on the job training at its ODT for 12 months on our FPSO fleets. Once they undertake on the job training, they come out confidently and then move to the vessel to go and then understand the expatriate and then localize their role within the shortest possible time that we have. Due to the COVID, we had the option of sending some of these fresh graduates to thermal oil refinery for on-the-job training. So during last year, for instance, we had our trainees being there for about 7 months, after which we deployed them to the FPSO just about 3 months ago for them to go and then understudy the expatriates, Ghanaians as well, and then backfill their positions by 18 months or so, right? Then for the marine CROs, right, that is the Marine Department of the FPSOs, what we did was to sign a contract with a German firm by name Benin, right? So they also undergo an 18-month intensive training program, which entails they're going to RMU, that's the Regional Maritime University, to go and then undertake FPSO fundamentals course. Once that is done, we deploy them to very large crude oil carriers all over the world, where they go and spend their time on very large crude on VLCCs and then learn how to undertake marine operations. Once they are done with that 1 year VLCC training, we move them to Cyprus for them to go and then undertake marine CRO further development course. Then they'll go back to the various VLCC, that's the very large crude oil carriers, the ships that carry crude oil for the final tanker development course, after which we will deploy them to the FPSO to go and then understudy the expatriates. And then, of course, localize the role once they are deemed as competent. Once these trainees get to the FPSO, right, they are assigned their day-to-day duties and then roles as well. Then we enroll them into our competency management program, which is mapped and then aligned to FPSO processes and the systems specific for each discipline of the engineering team. As I said in the abstract, we have the maintenance department, we have the production department, we have the marine department as well. So once you are fresh trained and then you fall under this department, you just go onto the vessel and then you are assigned to the specific engineering team that you will learn to, and then you undertake your competency training program and then ensure that all the boxes are ticked. Once you are deemed as competent, then of course you just move to the next level. Once we move to expatriates, at the top for the locals to occupy the room. Once we back from the beginning, I'll show you a graph or a picture of what we are doing when it comes to the localization of expatriate rules. So what we are doing is we pick fresh graduates who are just finished their national service, and then we focus on developing their positive learning attitude, ensure that they have the right mindset, they are committed to what they do. So during the course of the 2 years, I try hard to change their mindset to have a positive learning attitude and then be committed to what they are doing. I make sure that they understand that career is more important than money, because once you have, so we take the fresh graduates and then develop them into very confident people who go to the FPSOs and they study the expatriates and then occupy their role. So once they get to the vessel, we don't just leave them there. We have I've come up with a number of model traineeship program to help to build the capacity to at least localize further roles above them and then move them to other platforms as well. So the first one is for us we have instituted an offshore training program for existing high potential offshore crew. What we do here is that when these trainees go to the FPSOs, they spend about 2 or 3 years and then we see them as high flyers, right? Once we want them to occupy a much senior role, there are plans for us to send them to Brazil so that we just swap. We send them to Brazil, then we bring a Brazilian over here to come and occupy the role. So that when the Ghanaian goes to Brazil to go and then work in a much senior role, he will have the exposure and then come back with that knowledge and then mindset to come and occupy that role. So we have that for under a 12-month swap agreement where we have an exchange program where we send the Ghanaian to Brazil and then for the Brazilian to come over here to come and occupy the rest as means of cultural exchange and as means of also building their confidence and then giving them the exposure level. Then we have a program that's towards the excellency program where fresh graduates from all over just apply, go through the process, and of course we just go ahead and then select them, send them to Brazil to go and then and they take their training for about 18 months. So once they are done, they come back and they come and join us. But this program I see is for engineers. The onshore engineers are quite a few, right? So if you're able to get about 6 or 10 of them to go to Brazil for 18 months ago, and then they take the training program, they come back as very confident, and within a short period of time, they're able to localize the expatriate rule. The third one is onshore training program for high potential onshore local engineers. So if you're an engineer and then you are doing quite well, what we do is under swap agreements, we have an exchange program where you go and then build your confidence, learn more skills, and come back. And the fourth one is the offshore fresh graduate training program, which I spoke to you about in the previous slide. While the fifth one is onshore other staff secondment program. Other staff entails HR, procurement, finance, legal, and the rest. That's positions that are not solely engineering. Under that traineeship program, we have a swap agreement as well, where we pick some of the other staff, the HR, finance, procurement, I send them to Brazil to go and work for 6 months once we bring budgets over a year. And then from experience, those that travel to Brazil and then come in as very confident, and then they are able to at least deliver with the mindset to get the results at all costs. Then the last one that I want to touch on is about building capacity in anticipation for future FPSO projects. As I said earlier on, you don't have to wait till you get contracts before you train people to occupy positions on it. If you know that you are bidding for 2 or 3 FPSO projects, you have to begin to groom locals now, so that once the contract is won, you just move them over to go and work there without any issues having problems with local competence laws. All right, so I'm going to talk about MODAC's localization progress to date. When the LI 2204 was enacted into law into 2015, right? MODAC formed a localization department, which I was the head. Actually, I'm engineer by background, and I was moved to localization to just manage these things and then interface with the government as well. So our first official localization, right, through a structured process took place in 2017. But I might admit that before 2017, when I started Jubilee FPSO in 2010, we had localized about 8 routes, but that wasn't through a formal structured process. The formal structured project that we instituted was in 2016, and then we had our first localization in 2017. Then a year down the line, we were able to localize 11 expatriate rules. 2 years down the line, in 2019, we were able to localize 21 expatriate rules. In 2020, we were able to localize 26 expatriate rules because we took time and developed systems and structures to really bring the Ghanaians to localize the expatriate rule whilst keeping the vessel in a safe condition. And the Ghanaians went, they delivered with good attitude, and then everyone is kind of applauding them. Then last year, 2021, we were able to localize 11 expatriate rules. In light of the COVID, we still went ahead to localize expatriate rules. And then this year, hopefully, we localize 6 expatriate rules. Already, we have done 1, and it's left with about 5. So we have a structured system in place where the Ghanaians are deemed as competent before they localize the expatriate rule. We don't go ahead and then say that the country belongs to us and then Ghanaians should have the job. No. We ensure that if you want to localize an expatriate role, then you have to be fully competent. You have to take your training and competency seriously before you go ahead to localize the role. So for the statistics, right, according to the LI 2204, the management staff for Jubilee FPSO is supposed to be between 70 to 80%. Well, that's what LI 2204. The LI 2204 said that when a contract agreement is signed, 10 years, down the lane, the management staff local content is supposed to be 70 to 80%, yeah, right? But if we take the case of Jubilee, we have only 13% management staff. We have 9 expatriates occupying managerial roles, whilst we have only 1 Ghanaian. It's simply because Jubilee FPSO came to Ghana before the local content laws were kind of enacted. So there wasn't really much focus on localization till the LI was enacted, and then I was moved from engineering to come and then head the department and then put systems in place to ensure localization. So that's why we are lagging behind the management staff of Jubilee FPSO. And the most importantly, the industry is very new. And then we have to bring Ghanaians from below the ladder and then ensure that they rise up the ranks to occupy expatriate roles. For technical core staff, according to the law, we are supposed to be between 70 to 80% for Jubilee FPSO. And as a result of the aggressive and fresh graduate traineeship program that we had in place, where we pick fresh graduates, send them for a structured 2-year structured training program, and then send them to the FPSOs as backfills. We're able to have about 74% local content, which is within the local content requirements of LI 2204. I must admit, we could have done better if the LI 2204 came somewhere in 2010 or so. We could have been way ahead what the LI assesses of. And then when you talk of the other staff, which is the facility management team assistants, we have 100% nationalization over there. Right? So overall, for Jubilee FPSO, we have about 71% local content. For 10 FPSO as well, 10 FPSO started operation in 2016. The first oil was late 2016. As you can see, the LI 2204. As can you please mute your mic, please? Can you mute your mic? All right, thanks for that. Yeah, so as you can see, 10 FPSO came into being after the LI 2204 was enacted. So once we had the contract, I ensured that Ghanaians were sent for proper training in Singapore, right, to come back to come and then occupy expatriate roles. So as you can see, the management staff for 10 FPSO is even that for Jubilee FPSO simply because the LI was enacted before 10 FPSO came into being. Then for the technical core staff, as you can see, according to the LI 2204, we are supposed to have between 50 to 60% local content, but we are way above what the LI 2204 is saying. But we are somewhere around 75% local content for 10 FPS. So meanwhile, the LI said that the minimum local content should be between 50 to 60%. For other staff, we have 100% local content for 10 FPS. For onshore support as well, that is mainly the other staff, the HR, procurement, finance, and then the engineers like me that work onshore, right? The management staff, right? The senior management staff of MODEC in Ghana is 82% local content. There are about 11 of us, right, with 2 experts. By 2 months' time, we will confirm 1 expatriate, right, for him to go and fully localize the operations managers role for 10 FPS. Once that is done, that means we are going to have 90% local content, right, for as the management staff, overseeing the operations of MODEC in Ghana. So everything being equal, by let's say June or July, whether Ghana should have only one aspect rate as management staff for their operations in Ghana. For the technical core staff, that's mainly the engineers working onshore to support Jubilee and 10 FPSO operations. We are currently at 76% local content, and by the end of the year, once we localize one additional role, we should be at 77%, right? And for other staff, that is HR, finance, procurement, legal, and then anything that does not have to do with engineering, right? We have 100% localization, cost control. We don't have any expatriates at the other staff department when it comes to our operations in Ghana. The only expatriates we have are those doing the technical jobs. All right, I have already explained this slide. This is our local content and statistics and then the numbers that we have. So let me not bore you with it. All right. So as I said, earlier on, we really don't have to wait till FPSO contracts are won before we go ahead to train Ghanaians. So there's a business case for this. And what I'm saying is that there will be difficulties in having readily available technical expertise for future FPSO projects. Senegal is coming up. I'm told that Benin is also coming up. Other countries are coming up. So this is the time for us to at least concentrate on training Ghanaians and then other Africans for them to occupy future FPSO projects. If we don't do that, there will be difficulties in having readily available technical expertise to man FPSOs after FPSO projects are handed over to operations as well. Then I'm also saying that building the capacities of young engineers and technicians for future projects would make international oil companies competitive in a sustainable manner. If Modec, for example, is going to Benin also to at least produce oil there, the Benin government will be very happy to see that about 30% or 50% of those operating the FPSOs are Beninians, right? So there's a business case for IOCs operating FPSO to take keen interest in grooming locals for them to localize expatriate role and demand the FPSOs as well. So what I'm also saying that currently there's a big problem with unemployment. We have brilliant and then talented young engineers and technicians without jobs. So why don't IOCs collaborate and then at least train these Ghanaians and then at least wait for the opportunity time for them to go to other platforms and FPSOs as well to go and then work. What I'm also saying is that by developing these young talented engineers and then techs, IOCs will be seen as immensely contributing to building of local capacities in a sustainable way. As I said earlier on, one of the main reasons why Modec won the FPSO in Senegal was simply because we demonstrated that we take keen interest in developing Ghanaians, or we take keen interest in developing locals and then promote them to localize expatriate role. Right. So once that is done, and to enable IOCs to win future projects in third world countries, that would be evidence that they came to those countries and then committed to building local capacities for FPSO mining. And as you know, Africans have a hard-working background. So once we're able to harness into their talents and then develop them well, to be able to go all over to go and then work. So finally, emphasizing on the fact that by developing and having a pool of readily available engineers and technicians to occupy junior roles for future projects, senior expatriates whose positions have been localized on existing platform could move to other future FPSO projects. As I said earlier, one of the most difficult things to do in this world is to ask somebody to train somebody for that person to take over that person's job without having anything. So what I have done is that I have negotiated with other FPSO platforms so that once the expatriates are able to train and properly groom locals to occupy their role, we rather transfer them to the other platforms instead of asking them to go home. All right, I explained this earlier on, right? So the system that I have put in place is that every new employee coming to the organization is supposed to at least start from the base. We go for fresh graduates, give them a structured training program, and then send them to the FPSO for them to occupy traineeship role. Then once they are moved as, once they are deemed as competent, they move to the next level. Right, once we localize the expatriate roles ahead of the Ghanaians on the next level, for the Ghanaians ahead of them to occupy the role, right? Then 2 years down the line, we go for fresh graduates as well, and then use them as feed to FPSOs. So what we are doing is that we are pushing the localization from beneath instead of at the top, so that over a period of time, say 15 years or so, we'll have the entire FPSO fully nationalized. And once again, the strategy that we are using is to backfill from beneath the organization. Fresh graduates are selected. They are passed through a structured training program, then they go to the FPSOs as trainees, and then once they are deemed as competent, they are promoted to the next level, once the expatriate at the next level are localized by the Ghanaians beneath them. So with this process, it becomes a very natural localization process without us going ahead to ask people to just leave the organization when their time is not due. And with this, we ensure that everybody is competent whilst keeping the vessel in a safer place. So this is the flow chart for localization, right? What we do is we map each expatriate to a Ghanaian, right? Then we encourage the Ghanaian to have a face-to-face meeting with the expatriate in front of a third party. Then we identify the gaps, right, in terms of the job competency profile, the gaps that, or the training programs that they will need to occupy the target role. Then based on previous performance appraisals as well, be able to at least come up with the gap analysis and then list all the training programs that the Ghanaian will have to undertake to occupy the expatriate role. These training programs are usually listed on a year-to-year basis and then tracked accordingly. The one that is done, we develop an individual development plan, right? And then we put it on Microsoft projects or pieces. Then we track it from time to time. But recently, as I said earlier, we are going to put everything into a localization management system. So the IDPs are made up of the professional development courses, the competency development assurance and the competency training programs, the standard training programs, the on-the-job training program, as well as mentorship and then coaching. But from my experience managing localization for the past 6 years or so, I felt that on-the-job training and then mentorship and the coaching really do the trick, right? Most of the jobs are supposed to be hands-on. So my advice to locals or indigenous is that once they get the opportunity to take this training program or find themselves anywhere, they should rather focus on the job training, make sure that they learn the job. Of course, the external trainings as well will just come, but the main focus will be working hand in hand with your supervisors and the seniors to really understand the job. Then of course, we have to also take mentorship and the coaching seriously. So once that is done, they submit it to us localization departments, right? Then we issue it in an MS project. Then we fill out the PC templates A and then B and send it to the Petroleum Commission for them to have a look at the kind of training programs that we have put in place for the Ghanaian to be able to localize the expatriate role. So once we have that, we go ahead to track the monthly progress, right, of the Ghanaian attending the training program to enable him or her occupy the expatriate roles. Then every quarter, we undertake an appraisal of how the Ghanaian is doing. And then we also appraise the expatriates. If the expatriate is not doing well at transferring knowledge to the Ghanaian, we put the expatriates on a performance improvement program. If we still feel that the expatriate is not doing well, then we have to show the expatriate the exit door. Conversely, if a Ghanaian is not pulling the weight at learning, and the Ghanaian feels that it is his or her right to occupy the expatriate role, and they're rather looking at occupying the expatriate role instead of taking the training program seriously, we put the Ghanaian on a performance improvement program. When we see improvement, fine. When we don't see any improvement, then we have to show the Ghanaian the exit door. Then this cycle goes on, right? Then every year we just go ahead and then issue a report on how the Ghanaian is faring against localizing the expatriate rule and the progress in terms of percentages as well. So we do this on a yearly basis, right? So the last year where we asked the expatriate to step behind for the Ghanaian to take the lead role in taking that job role. Then of course, once the HOD is convinced that the Ghanaian is capable of occupying the expatriate role, the general manager, the offshore selection manager, the senior management, and the HOD will just meet, have discussions, and then agree that the Ghanaian is fully competent to occupy the expatriate role. Then 6 months before the expatriate is supposed to go, we issue the expatriate with a notification that, hey, thank you for training the Ghanaian, or thank you for training the locals to occupy the expatriate role. We are very much grateful. So if you realize, we just don't tell the expatriates to leave. We go ahead and then give them at least 6 months notice, thanking them for the good job that they have done. And every effort is made to transfer the expatriates to other platforms. On a rare occasion, if it's not possible, we just collect the expatriates' CV. Then at least we look for opportunities for the expatriates. Then the expatriates would finally exit, and then the Ghanaian would fully localize, assume the role for about 6 months. The Ghanaian is assessed for about 6 months to see that he or she is competent. Then the Ghanaian is, confirmed to occupy the expatriate role. Then, as part of the monitoring and then evaluation as well, we have come up with some templates that we use. There were issues with counter accusations from expatriates, and then the Ghanaian will say the expatriate is not transferring knowledge. The expatriate will say that the Ghanaian is not absorbing knowledge enough. So what we have done is that we have come up with a template where on a quarterly basis, we sit both the expatriate and then the Ghanaian down to talk and have a face-to-face. Then we list all the challenges and then improvement area. Then we document it. We have the expatriate to sign, we have the local to sign, we have the onboard trainer on the vessel to sign, we have the HIV people to sign, and I will sign as well. Then we document all the challenges, and then if there's a need for us to step in, to intervene, to ensure that the sanity in the system, we just go ahead and then do that. We implemented this, and then so far we are having less of a challenges. And then what we have seen is that with this, we have bridged the gap between the Ghanaian and then the expatriate. They're able to sit, work in harmony, and then deliver towards a common goal. Then we have also come up with a monthly coaching report from where we ask the expatriate to list all the training programs that he or she is transferring to the Ghanaian on a monthly basis. This is documented and then filed into the expatriate and then the Ghanaian's folder as well. Then we had instances of when there's time for the Ghanaian to localize an expatriate role, there'll be lots of complaints that the Ghanaian does not have source skills and the Ghanaian is not competent enough. So what we have done is that we have rolled out a template where each activity and taken by the Ghanaian or the local is documented and the work that the Ghanaian did. So what we are doing here is to build a dossier so that when the time is due for localization, right, there will be enough evidence to demonstrate that the Ghanaian can indeed localize the expatriate role without any problems. So as I said earlier on, we undertake a quarterly appraisal of Ghanaians EMR to localize expatriates, where we assess them in all the various areas, like the job knowledge, the work quality, the work habits, the behavior, and then the relationship with others, and then the communication as well. One of the areas that I would want to hammer on is that if we really want to rise through the ranks and then occupy expatriate roles, then the behavior and the relationship with other workers form about 90% of it. Everything is about relationship, right? And then being able to have a positive learning attitude to learn from everyone. Right. So once that is done, in case the Ghana has a comment or so, he or she puts it on the form, and then it's signed by the expatriate counterpart, it's signed by the Ghanaian, it's signed by the OHD as well, and then it is documented. Right. So when Modek Ghana came, or when Modek came to Ghana, and during my time working as an engineer, what we were doing is, in case we have any problem, we'll go ahead and then send an email to Houston or Singapore and then Brazil, and then wait for them to respond to us, and then at least, get the job done on the FPSO. So we realized that we can easily improve upon the systems by bringing the engineers over here to come and work with our engineering team over here in Ghana, and then of course train them purposely for the FPSO operations and then FPSO engineering as well. So with this, we went ahead to institute that about 3 or 2 years ago, and then what we realized that the benefits of the new model that we rolled out is a high performing end-to-end operator, where in case there are any issues, the Ghanaians right here in Ghana are able to go ahead and then solve the problems on the FPSO without sending the information to Houston and then Singapore and then asking for feedback. So there was a reduced complexity in all interfaces across the engineering flow managed in Ghana. And then of course there was an improved investment planning and decisions based on integrated view for planning, from planning to execution as well. Right from the planning to the execution stage, we have Ghanaians doing all those jobs with the support of a few expatriates around. And of course, we had full utilization of companies and local suppliers throughout the process. The localization management system that I said about, right, with all the templates that I spoke to you about, the monitoring form, the on-the-job training, the coaching form, right, we have engaged a firm and then developed a localization management system where all these templates are integrated into the system, where we sit back and just monitor the progress of the Ghanaian or the local towards localizing the expatriate role. So with this, in case any Ghanaian has an issue with the training program or how the training program is being delivered, he or she can log onto the system. Conversely, if the expatriate has any issues too, they can just go ahead and then just do that. So that at least we are able to sit behind and then monitor the progress of the Ghanaian towards localizing the expatriate role. So everything is transparent and is fully automated without any issues or human interferences. I'm not leaving the supply chain out. That's the procurement big bit. What I would want to say is that for us, Modec, or when any FPSO operator goes to any Africa country, that operator will have to ensure that services like catering, freight forwarding, flight booking, scaffolding, vehicle leasing are always allocated to local companies. Then we also have to ensure that we do vendor due diligence and some for at least 10 new local companies every year. Then there's a program by name, or there's a what's the right word? There's an institution by name Invest in Africa that helps to promote provision of quality local supply chain services from the industry. I'm told that it's also spread across other African countries. We have enrolled onto it. We pay about $30,000 a year. And that Invest in Africa program trains Ghanaian firms so that they are able to meet the supply chain quality services that is required of them. And of course, we have to sponsor local content events as well. Then we undertake vendor forums where we train our vendors every quarter for them to be top-notch with regards to the delivery of services. Then our preference is always for local vendors. I mean, if a local vendor is competing against a foreign vendor for the same project, the preference is for a local vendor, even if the local vendor quotes 10% more than the foreign firm, we make sure that the local vendor has the job. Then our vendors working for us, we make sure that I personally make sure that they form JV, that is joint ventures with local companies, and then ensure that they are transferring knowledge to them so that the local content, so that the local vendors can take up those jobs, within the shortest possible of time as part of our local content initiative. So the targeted areas are the small bore tubings, the explosion-proof inspections, right? The hazardous area equipment, remedial works, the service of control valves, the pressure safety valve, and the pressure control valves calibration, flange management, the large management systems, installation, and then lagging. Installation and then lagging. There was a company. When I joined MUDEC, we used to bring foreigners to come and then do it. But whilst I was working at Tor, there was this company that were doing our lagging for us. So I had to talk to the management of the FPSO for them to accept that company, for them to come and then at least do that job. When that company went to the FPSO somewhere in 2020, 2013, that company was even able to do better than what the expatriate firms were doing when it comes to lagging and installation of pipelines. And that company has come to stay. They are doing an excellent jobs on both Jubilee and FPSO when it comes to lagging and installation. So this is to tell that the Ghanaian companies are able to do it once they have the right mindset. Then valve management, as well as pipe support, anomalies, remediation, fabrication, scaffolding, and then bringing, we ensure that if a foreign entity is doing those jobs, they have to transfer knowledge to the Ghanaian for them to be able to do the jobs. So local content basically is all about nurturing talent that already exists in African countries for future oil and gas businesses. And local content is just about utilizing current staff to benefit new business opportunities. It's about bringing experienced Africans and experienced Ghanaians overseas to come back home under the SPE program to come and then occupy senior expatriate roles and then at least ensure to the safe and the smooth running of the FPSOs. And local content is about leveraging the strengths of our local partners and then of course building expertise through technology transfer and local business development. Right. So the main idea here is to ensure that if any foreign firm is working in an African country, the foreign firm is able to transfer knowledge and then give a time frame to which they will transfer enough knowledge for that foreign firm to be able to do exactly the same to what the foreign firm was doing. Right. Then what I'm saying is that through local content, we are delivering a new way of performance drive. If you're able to do that, you're able to, local content is usually expensive at the initial stages because you have to invest in the training of Ghana. And for example, for the traineeship program that I instituted, but for every batch, we spend no more than, or let's say no less than $2.5 million in grooming them. But if you're able to get that money to really invest them within the next 3 or 4 years or so, it usually pays off because you would localize the expatriate role. Once you localize the expatriate role, you don't spend much more on flights and then all those things. And then the Ghanaians are able to do that. So I leave you with a beautiful picture of the trainees, of our trainees, who went to the UK for technical training for them to be able to come back to the FPSOs and then localize expatriate roles. Then we have a picture of our trainees that went for on-the-job training at Tamaoya Refinery in light of the COVID. I mean, Todd did quite well in grooming them. They went to the vessel with the right mindset to at least learn and then localize expatriate roles. So that's it from my side. If there are any questions, I would love to take them. Thank you.
Hello, Robertson. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good. If you can all hear me and if you've all read my chat, I was busy typing at the. Okay, I've received some questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Papa Benin. I think we had no choice than to give you all the time you needed to take us through all these good jobs. Well done and congratulations to MODEC for winning even awards in other African countries. Of course, that could be achieved with a proper business plan, not waiting for jobs to create by itself before you train Ghanaians, but you did that with understanding that you need Ghanaians to take over. Well done. I'll kick off with a couple of questions, and I've asked the team to give me 4 strong questions for follow-ups. So please buckle up and let's cruise, right? So my first question has to do with what has been the challenges. I mean, you've made mention of the good stuff as if it's all silver and gold, you know. What has been the challenges for MODEC for achieving this? I mean, what were the grinds that you needed to overcome? That's the first question. And probably how you overcome it. It could be political stuff. I mean, just tell us. All right, we are here to learn. So go ahead and tell us. And as a local content expert, I'm sure it's not news to you that in Qatar and UAE, local content plays a very big role. And then even incentives are given to companies that abide with localization rules. Is that the same thing here in Ghana? If not, why not? Is it something that we can look at? So giving some incentives to companies that are abiding to local content policies. So these are 2 questions that I wanted to kick off, and I'll go back to my chat and get some questions for you. Thank you.
All right, Doc. Yeah. So concerning the first question, right? The major challenge I had, or we had was, the local content laws of Ghana being enacted, after we had Jubilee FPSO, right? Most of the expatriates came to Ghana with the notion that they had a permanent contract, right? But when the laws changed, right, me going back to tell them that no, the law says that you should be in Ghana for a limited period of time, of course, or limited period, train Ghanaian to occupy the expatriate role, didn't really sit down well with them. But with time, with constant education, right, with explaining that we have to be compliant to the laws of the land, or else we are putting the organization at risk. It sank with them. And of course, we also make sure that once they localize the rule, we're able to transfer them to other platforms. So that was what the trick.
Absolutely.
That was what the trick. And then about the incentive packages as well. I mean, we don't have that yet in Ghana. I think it's something that is worth talking about. But at least if we were able to do it well, it saves the company lots of money in the long run. And then, as I said, there's a moral reason for embracing local content.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you so much, Doc, for that insightful answer. Stephen Ajay comes with his question, and thanking you for making time to meet us today. And he says, fantastic presentation from you. Thank you so much. So his question is, the publicity on the recruitment from the schools, so I'm sure he means the universities, is low. And he want to recommend that MODEC could attend career fairs if they're not doing that already, in order to create more awareness of such of the programs. Yes, so that's where SP comes in. And this is not the first time we're engaging MODEC. And I believe in the upcoming student conference in May, no, in June now, MODEC is going to come as a partner to showcase all the localization opportunities that they have in the company or even in the industry. Or Doc, am I lying? Are you not going to participate with us?
We would definitely just keep us informed, and then we would definitely show up.
Thank you so much. I have Charles Ajo, if I get the name right. Charles is a final year petroleum engineer, and is asking if there is any opportunity for him.
For
a final year petroleum engineer.
Yeah, it's for national service.
National service or work. Charles, I'm sure you're looking for national service.
Yes.
So do you directly involve in national service? Can let us know.
Yes. I mean, what we do is we go to Tech, UMass, and the rest, and then we ask for the names of brilliant students from the HODs. So once they give us the names, they write an exams, and then we screen them. We screen them down to the number that we want. So yes, there are the opportunities for national service. Currently, we have about 10 national service people over here.
Nice.
But what they did was we had the names from the schools, and then
all right.
Exams came.
So does it mean that, Charles, you need to talk to your HOD or your dean to add your name to the list? And I'm sure the deans will add the best students. So if you're students, you need to learn hard. I always tell you guys. Okay. Now I have a question from SPE Ghana Section. I'm sure that's coming from James. And the question is, with the advent of new FPSO in the Caribbean, are you seeing them as a threat to your trained guys? As in, do you fear you lose critical trained guys?
Yeah, I mean, I might say that, that is a normal process, and we don't have control over that. We had a couple of guys joining the Ghanaian FPSOs, but I think that we have groomed enough Ghanaians, and then we have enough crew to not fall beyond the minimum local content, and have no control over that. We don't see them as a threat. If a Ghanaian is able to go there and then deliver, and then maybe come back to come and then work for us, that's okay. Yeah, but what I can confidently say that we have enough pool of Ghanaians to back for when the time is due.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I don't have any question in my direct inbox so far, but okay, there's one that just dropped from Vincent. So most companies do scrap off positions when it's about time for Ghanaians to take over and change the name of the positions and bring another expatriate to occupy. The question is what? So probably he's asking what would I'm just guessing what would Papa Benin do about it? Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a very tricky one, but I don't think that is actually the case, right? I mean, I know there's so many allegations about that, but what I can say is that the PC monitors everything, right? So we just can't go ahead and then say you are scrapping a role and then bringing in a different, expatriates. No, I think those days things that were happening about 5-6 years ago. Currently, the PC is very aggressive. They monitor everything. We are very transparent, right? Once an expatriate is coming in, they track everything from the day the expatriate comes in country to when the expatriate leaves. And yeah. I can say that that's not going to happen in sentence. This might have happened in the past.
All right.
We just leave the past behind and then just move forward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, I trust you, I trust PC, so I hope this is not the case. Please, when you open the door for national service personnel, I mean, come on, you know this already. Once I mean, he has answered that. Once you are a student, and he's mentioned that they get a name from your dean of students. Please go ahead. And then, Doc, I also want to say that SPE Section is in collaboration with the Petroleum Commission to give to our active student chapters to have services, national service with you guys. At the moment, we have them at GMPC, Toyo, and the rest. So I'm sure we can talk behind the scene to have our guys as well, especially those coming from the marine science, you know, that has to do with some mechanical, FPSO management and all that. Okay. So Solomon Apia Kubi want to ask Dr. Papa Benin about organogram. So he has noticed that MODEC has an engineer position. I didn't see that in that organogram yet, but then he did. That's good. So does the engineer level fit in the MODEC organogram? Where does an engineer level fit in the MODEC's organogram? By Solomon Piakobi. Thank you.
Yeah, Solomon. Yeah, so what I would want to say is that we don't have any engineers working offshore, right? All the engineers are located onshore. So we have an onshore organizational chart. The chart that I showed in the presentation is for offshore. So once again, all the engineers sit onshore, and a few of them, we have the instrumentation, electrical, mechanical engineers as well. Reporting to the asset integrity manager, who reports to the MD. Solomon, is that okay? Solomon.
Yes.
Yes, please.
That sure.
I agree with you, sir. I agree. That's okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Good. All right. So one more question and we are done. So this comes in, we know some oil giants are transitioning from fossil fuel to renewables. Don't we see that as a threat to some years to come when Ghana takes over fully in exploration and production of oil and gas?
I mean, you and I have had this discussions on different platforms before. I think that yes. Yeah, that's going to take a long time, and what we advise is to engage in a parallel investment, right? Whilst we still go ahead and then explore and then produce the oil, we also invest in renewable engineering as well. So I don't really see it as a threat. We still have to focus and then at least to groom Ghanaians to occupy expatriate roles, whilst we also groom Ghanaians to delve into green energy as well. So I don't really see it as a threat from my viewpoint.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, we're not going to start any transition topic now because that is going to take us another 1 hour. So yes, on behalf of SPE Ghana Section and in fact SPE International, and on behalf of my session chair Celestina, engineer, and Cole, we want to thank you so much, Dr. Papa Benin. We know how busy you are and you made time to come talk to us. And we want to appreciate your time so much and say that we are willing, ready, and able to collaborate with MODEC as an organization, that's SPE, in any capacity. And we are glad to have more members from MODEC. We want to promote that in going forward. So in absence of any question, and we've actually matched up with our time, we believe that it's not the first time we're going to have you here. We're going to have you here often than not. So please back up, and we're going to meet you to come talk about more of your stuff you're doing outside Ghana, where Ghanaians can take opportunity of. So once again, thank you so much, and God bless you.
Welcome, sir. Doc, I would want to ask Mr. Papa Benin one last question.
Okay.
Mr. Papa Benin, how welcoming is to Ghanaians joining their FPSO? That's the FPSO Sakuma. How welcoming is Senegal to Ghanaians who are probably been trained by AOGC or maybe MODEC, who have entry level or advanced level joining their FPSO? How nice since you've been interacting with them for some time now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But what I would want to say is that, I mean, obviously the Senegalese government would want to have Senegalese occupying junior FPSO. So if you are of a middle or senior level, or you have middle or senior level experience on FPSOs as well, you can easily apply. And once you are interviewed and then you just, average, you can just easily have those jobs. In similar way, I mean, when Ghana has an FPSO and we have other foreign nationals coming over here to work, the Ghana government ensures that at least Ghanaians are given the opportunity to work first. So it's quite open, but I would encourage both senior level guys to be the ones applying, right? Just get the experience before you apply. I believe that is fair. It's fair that way.
Thank you.
So they are welcome. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the comprehensive answer.
Yeah. You are on mute.
So much, El. Yes, thank you so much, El, for coming back with the sequel of your question. And I think that question formed part of my conclusion remarks. Can you please mute yourself if you're not talking? Okay, can you please mute yourself if you're not? And that's what probably the second talk would have to look at. Charles, can you please mute yourself? Charles, I joke. James, can you please mute him as a host? Can you mute everybody who is giving noise at the background? Anyway, we are at the end of our journey. It's been an hour and almost a half journey with this interesting topic, and I think I still want to thank Dr. Papa Brini, know him personally and how busy he is to making time to meet us today. And to all the student buddies who joined us, all the interesting questions that came from you, we appreciate that. So we want to ask you to tune to our next technical session. We also want you to take notice of our conference, biannual conference that's happening in June. The venue will be there. So, I mean, it's going to happen in Golden Tube Hotel. The date is on the 1st of July, actually. So put that on your calendar. The student conference is also coming up in June, I think second week of June. And I believe I'll be happy to see everybody here in person. Okay. Once again, have a very good afternoon, and then we stay tuned to SPE events. Cheers. James, if you are here, you can take over, or we can end.